I'm starting where I left off. I think I left off, we went over to some friends at my parents' house. My stepmom took me over there, and all of us kids, and my father followed us over there, and one of their friends, the man of the house, he wouldn't let my dad take us. He put us in the bathroom and locked the doors. And my dad, he just wouldn't stop until he let them take us. Well, let them take me. He just said, you know, eventually he just said, "Give me Pete." I know a lot of you guys know me. My name is Paul Luna. Paul. But when I was a baby, they used to call me Pee-wee. And as I got bigger, you know, it didn't really fit anymore because I'm about 6 foot and I'm pretty stocky. So they just started calling me Pete. And that's what my family always called me, Pete. Everybody else called me Paul. But he said, "Give me Pete." And I wasn't really scared of him, so they sent me with him, and he left. I don't remember what happened after that. You know, probably just went home and went to bed or something. But some of the crazy stuff. And I just want to say something about my grandfather. You know, he was a really good guy. He was an apostolic preacher. I loved him and I respected him a lot. I looked up to him. I think his doctrine was twisted. But most ministers out there today, their doctrine is twisted, and we'll get into that later. But I really looked up to him. Him and my grandma, they were always there for me. They always showed me kindness. What else? I want to say a few things about my father. There's a lot of things that my father did that was wrong, and most people would consider it evil or what, you know. There was a lot of good things about him that I took from him. You know, he was really family oriented. He loved his family. He wanted them to be together. He wanted them, you know, I guess he had an idea in his head about what a family should be like and how they should be together, and he worked hard to keep that. But you know, it just didn't work because he was always, you know, counterproductive. He'd have the family at home and then he'd go out and do whatever he wanted. And a few other things about him that I took from his life is he was real charitable. You know, if there was somebody who needed something, he would be there to help them. You know, he'd try his hardest to, like, you know, give them food or money or whatever. And even though he was an alcoholic and he drank a lot, he would always take us to do stuff like going fishing and stuff like that. He tried to take us on vacations every year. You know, just things so that we could be together. You know, he drank a lot while he was doing it, but at least he like made the effort. And he taught us how to be strong, you know, and not to let people walk all over us. And I know sometimes Christians believe that they have to be like loving to a fault, where people are just allowed to walk all over you, but I don't see that in the scriptures. I know you're supposed to turn the other cheek, and that's a good thing. You know, many times when every time I've been in a fight, I've always, you know, with the exception of the first fight, maybe there was other times, but 90% of the time or 99% of the time, I always let the other guy, you know, make the first move or take the first shot or whatever. You know, I never like instigated the fight or tried, you know, to push it. I always tried to give the guy a way out. I always tried to not fight, you know, because there is an element of fear there. You know, I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to be in a fight, but, you know, I wasn't going to let the guy walk all over me. And I learned a long time ago that when you let people walk on you, they'll just do it all the time. So, and I told my wife one time that, you know, violence is sometimes the only language that people speak. The deeper I get into Christianity, the more I realize that, you know, you can love people and kind of like, there doesn't need to be violence. But some people come at you, and before you even have a chance to speak, they want to be violent towards you. And that's when I believe it's important for you to stand up for yourself. And you can do stuff like that in an attitude of violence or attitude of love and respect. And I believe in not violate your Christian ethics or moral code, you know. But we'll probably get into that more later. Where was I? My father, he did a lot of stuff like that. I remember one time we would go out to the pond. We had a pond in our back. It wasn't really a pond, it was more like a mud puddle that was big, you know, and it always had frogs in it and stuff. So we'd go out there and we'd catch frogs. And my father told us, he said, you know, because we'd catch them and then we'd bring them home and torture them and cut them up and do all kinds of crazy stuff to them, you know, like some boys do. And my father didn't like that. He told us not to do that, but we did it anyway. We kept doing it. And one day he called us in. He told us to go upstairs, and we went upstairs. And then he told us to come downstairs a little bit later and sat us around the table. And then he put plates in front of us, and on the plate was a bullfrog that had been fried whole, you know, with the head and the guts and everything. Its eyeballs were sticking out, and it was like its hands were in front of it and its legs were stretched out behind it. And he said, now you're gonna eat them. And that's one thing my father always believed in. He's like, in the part of the country where we're at, hunting and fishing is a big deal. You know, I think most kids out here learn how to do that stuff. And my father's always said that if you kill something, then you need to eat it. There needs to be a reason behind it. You don't just do it for maliciousness or just for the fun of it. You know, there has to be a reason. And that's another one of the things that he taught me. One of the things I teach my children is that when you're eating, you know, a lot of times kids will want to get up and not finish their food. And I tell them, you know, you eat the meat. If, you know, I don't push it on them. If they want meat, they can have the meat, but the meat that they get, they have to eat. And the reason behind that, the reason I tell them that is because an animal gave its life so that you could have that meat, and you need to respect that. And to finish the meat at least. You know, I don't care so much about the vegetables or whatever, but the meat has to be gone. And that's just one of the little things I always teach my boys. I have 2 sons. One's name is Trayson, he's 18, and one's name is Max, he's 9. So those are some of the things that I teach them. What else? I just want to say about my stepmom. My stepmom, she's a good woman. She's dealing right now with a lot of guilt and condemnation and just a whole lot of garbage that needs to be taken off of her shoulders. But it's really hard for her because I grew up United Pentecostal and Apostolic, and the big thing with those denominations is they unknowingly or unwittingly pile a lot of guilt and condemnation upon their saints. You know, you have a moral code that's set by the church, and if you violate that moral code, or yeah, my webcam messes up, it zooms in and out. If you violate that moral code, then there's guilt, there's condemnation that comes upon you. And it's not even like demonic, which most guilt and condemnation is demonic in nature. You know, Satan is always there. He's the accuser of the brethren. He's always pointing out what you've done wrong. But this guilt and condemnation that's placed upon their saints is placed upon them by the church. And even though it's also demonic in nature, it's reinforced by the people. And so the whole upbringing of her and us has been, you know, that if you do something wrong, there are consequences, and you have to be beholden to the church, you know. Like, she's left the church, she's been out of church for a long time, and she can't come to grips or can't understand that she is a child of God and she is the church. So she still believes that she's going to hell and that she's outside of the will of God just because she doesn't go to the building and follow their rules and their regulations. And I think that's one of the biggest problems in denominational churches. They've got away from the people being the church, and it's all about the organization. And if you don't fit into the organization or you don't follow their guidelines, then they literally kill you, slaughter you. Literally. I mean, it's spiritual, and they don't realize that they're doing it. And that's what's happening to my stepmother right now, and I love her. I love her a lot, you know. I put her through a whole lot of grief. You know, I was actively working against her while I was living in her home. Because, you know, I was a kid, and I loved my father, and I saw her as a rival. So when I was young, you know, I'd do all kinds of crazy things to make her look bad in his eyes. For instance, one time she slapped me in the face, and I get a bloody nose real easy. So my nose was bleeding, and it was bleeding all over my face, all over my clothes. I ran away. I ran down to the river, and I waited for my father to come home. And when he came home, I said, "Look what she did to me." And, you know, infuriated him. He got so mad, he went up and started smacking her around. You know, that's just some of the crazy stuff I used to do. I'm running out of time, so I'll catch you on the next one.